Good evening and welcome to Good Grief. The session tonight is about creating better body relationships. I'm Dr. Michelle Pedicola, and we are going to be focusing on how you can have a better relationship with your body and maybe some very, very powerful action steps that you can take that will improve your relationship with your body. Before I do that, or actually while I'm introducing this part, if you could put in the chat some of the challenges that you're having with your body right now, that will help me to tailor this presentation to your particular needs. My yoga teacher often said, "You are a spiritual being having a human adventure." I love this idea. The great human adventure. Sounded like a theme park to me. It helped me not take life so seriously and to have more fun. But what he neglected to really explain to us is that sometimes spirit conflicts with the vehicle that we travel through this great human adventure, i.e., the human body. Spirit has its agenda, its life purpose, why you are here. So I would love to have you share in the chat what you think your life purpose is. Before you put that answer in, I want you to understand that our life purpose is likely to evolve and change over the course of our lives. That as we get older, it might get smaller. It might be as simple as leaving an ethical directive to our grandchildren. Whereas when we're younger, we may have much bigger, like, rocking the stock market or having a big impact in the music world. What I'm interested in is, what do you think your purpose is now and maybe for the rest of your life? I remember hearing a story about a man who was this incredible patriarch. He was the founder and CEO of a huge corporation. He was a powerful man, and he controlled everything that went on in his family. And then he went into hospice. He was dying, and he was devastated by this experience because now he didn't feel strong anymore. He didn't feel powerful. He didn't feel like he was in control. And so his hospice volunteer said to him, "Why don't you shift your perspective and come up with the best you can do to demonstrate to your family the best way to die?" And he took this on himself. That became his new life mission, to once again be a leader in his family and to make the most out of what he had left in his life. I worked with another man who was originally in my partner lost grief group. And then I asked him, because I knew he was like in his last year. He had a heart condition and his wife had passed away. And he made his mission to find out that he was truly loved. Because all through his married life, it seemed like his wife was the life of the party. She was the person that everybody recognized. At her memorial service, there was this great outpouring of love and appreciation from all of her students and all of her friends. And he kind of felt left out. So he made it his mission to find out what his relationship with people was without her in his life. And he also made it a mission to find and explore spirituality, something he had never done before. And oftentimes, when I visited him, I would invite him to think about what would happen after he died. Oh, he didn't want to talk about that. He was a mathematician, so he was like not open to that. And yet, little by little, he started to see life in a different way. And by the end, When he was on his deathbed, a friend of his asked him, she asked him, "What do you need now?" And he said, with a twinkle in his eyes, "More adventures." And she told me this, and that felt to me like a confirmation from him that he had finally seen that, yes, there may be more to this experience than just this three-dimensional plane. So if you want to go ahead and put what you think your purpose is in this life, what's your mission? And don't be shy. When you write down what your life purpose is, you are setting in motion the support of the universe. You are claiming your purpose in this life and owning it and asking for help from the universe. And now we have the body. The body has its own agenda. 300 million cells all working to keep you alive. That's what its purpose is, to keep you alive. Okay, so how is that a conflict? In a word, others. The human body is a communal being. That is, it survives better when in relationship with other human beings. It does not have claws, it does not have sharp teeth, and so it actually depends partly on its brain and partly on other people to survive. In fact, in the olden days, being expelled from your community was pretty much a death sentence because you needed other people to support you. And if you think about it, would you have survived your infancy if there had not been somebody there to feed you milk and change your diapers? Of course, you know the answer to that. It's no. We need others to survive, which means that others have a huge impact on us, especially our parents. And this is where the conflict starts to come in. So the potential dangers to this human body, in addition to deadly microbes or dangerous viruses, and lions and tigers and bears, also parents, partners, and politicians. Oh my, yes, all of these potential other humans. In fact, other humans probably create more fear and more body upset. Maybe viruses and microbes, but predators, we've largely gotten rid of our predators. So if you want to have a great human adventure, it behooves you to create a better partnership with your body. Otherwise, it's going to be conflicting with you, especially if your particular mission or what you want to accomplish in your life doesn't agree with what your body thinks is safe or what your body feels comfortable with. And a lot of this programming of your body happened when you were very young. And we're going to look a little bit more at that. But this programming can happen sometimes subconsciously, so you don't even know that it's operating. And it operates at all levels, both in the mind, in the emotions, and in the physical body. So I have a question for you. What is your body telling you right now? Go ahead, listen in, close your eyes, and ask your body, what do you need to tell me right now? And if you feel comfortable, put it in the chat. Is your body telling you, do I really want to be on a Zoom call right now? It's such a nice day outside. Or is it saying to you, dang, when are you going to get a new chair? This is so uncomfortable. Or is your body saying to you, you forgot to pee, and now we have to sit for this whole hour. Oh my. If you don't know what your body is telling you right now, you're not alone. Most of us were cut off from our bodies, disconnected from the communications of our bodies very, very young. Probably that very first day you went to school and they shoved you into that tiny confining desk and looked at you and said, don't talk and don't move. When a 5-year-old body all it wants to do is wiggle and giggle and play. So you learned to disconnect from your body very early on. You had to, because how else were you going to survive and get along in school? Because your parents wanted you to get along in school. Now, some of you may have actually disconnected even earlier. I know I did. I disconnected from my body when I was only 2 years old. My father, who was the sun and moon to me, was transferred to Japan when I was only 2 by the US Army. I was devastated. I felt abandoned. I felt betrayed. I felt unworthy, not good enough, unlovable. Pretty heavy-duty emotions for a 2-year-old. And my mother, she was trying to move a household with 3 kids to Japan. So I had to deal somehow with these intense emotions. I shut them off. I shut them down. Well, that's one story. The other story is I simply mimicked my dad, who was also totally cut off from his body awareness. One time he came up from the basement where his workroom was, and the tip of his thumb was hanging by a piece of skin. And he said to my mother, I think I cut my thumb. She, of course, raced him to the emergency room. But that was how disconnected he was from his body. He had one of these lazy boy chairs, you know, the kind that you can lean back and you lift up your feet. And he would sit in it like this. And my mother would come into the room and she would say, honey, are you comfortable? And he would say, I'm fine. Well, that was me too. I mimicked him. I was stiff as a stick. Remember those dances in high school we learned? I couldn't hardly move at all because I was so stiff. I was so guarded. I was so protected. If you said a comment that hurt my feelings, I wouldn't even register it for 3 days. I was that guarded. So I might have actually gone on the rest of my life disconnected from my feelings, from my emotions. But something big happened in my life. And that was that both my parents died about 6 months apart. My father from Alzheimer's and my mother from breast cancer. And the emotions, the grief, hit me like a tsunami. I was just bowled over. Although I did resist the emotions, I did resist as hard as I could. I held all of my feelings in until my back went out. And the pain was so excruciating that I had to cry my heart out. So the best thing about this time with my parents was not only did I start to get my feelings back online, but my mother conveyed to me the most important message of my life. And that was, live your passion or die with regret. Now, my mother was a poster child for living your life passion. She was a toy designer. She actually sold her toys to major companies in New York City. Her efforts often to the neglect of her 6 children. But she had regrets. Before she died, she shared with me her regrets about not finishing one of her favorite and cherished projects. And it just woke me up. If she could have regrets, where did that leave me? A person who had spent all my time making sure that I was doing what other people wanted. I didn't even know what my favorite color was. Oh, you want me to take the blue piece in the checkerboard game, the Parcheesi game? Sure, I'll take the blue one. I didn't know. But this woke me up, and that's when I decided to make a documentary film because I was really impressed about this experience of death. And I felt like it had woken me up. And I made the film because I wanted to wake other people up to this short and amazing life that we have. So that was my mission. And in the process of getting a crew together and interviewing people and joining hospice, so I understood the whole landscape of dying, I discovered that my spirit had been working behind the scenes the whole time. I studied psychology and sociology in graduate school and got a PhD because I wanted to understand the psychology of my own trauma. I worked in group homes, first in Las Vegas and then in Fort Defiance with Native Americans, teenagers, to understand how to heal trauma, how to heal abandonment, how to heal abuse and neglect. I joined a spiritual community of which I'm still a member after almost 40 years, in order to understand the spiritual side of life, to be able to communicate and listen to the spiritual part of myself. And I studied psychosomatics so that I could learn the language of the body. Now, I wish I could share with you everything I have learned in my journey since my parents died. But I only have an hour, and I want to make sure that you have some time to ask your questions and to get more information. But I promise I will give you a way to connect with me before I finish my speech, my presentation. Your body is your buddy. It is going to be with you until you leave this three-dimensional plane, until you leave this planet. And either you learn to work with it, or it will give you trouble. It will give you difficulties. The body is speaking to us all the time. It communicates in three modes: sensation, emotion, and mentation. I wanted to make them sound the same, but that's basically the mind, what the mind is saying. This is all body. This is all programmed from childhood, most of it. So let's start out with sensation. Sensation, at first glance, seems simple, right? Pleasure? Pain. Pleasure good? Pain bad. Well, it's a little more complicated than that, isn't it? I am sure that all of you have had the experience of having had too much pleasure. Oh, I ate too much. Oh, I drank too much. Yeah, right? Who was that person I slept with last night? Ew. In fact, a lot of spiritual practices try and rein in our impulses towards pleasure because they can get us in trouble. Now let's look at pain. You could not survive without pain, could you? Pain is your body shouting at you to change something real quickly. Hot, sharp, oh, heavy. It's telling you to do something right now. Which reminds me, you might want to learn to get the messages of your body before it starts to manifest on the physiological level, which is the complication with sensation. Your emotions feed in to your sensations, like the time that my back went out because I was so busy holding my feelings in. By the way, this is one of the problems that people who have experienced a huge loss go through, is they try and hold their emotions in because we're taught to hold our emotions back. We don't want to make people uncomfortable. We don't want to chase them away. And as a result, we're exhausted. We totally exhaust ourselves trying to hold our emotions in, and we may even get physiological complaints. There is a book that is called The Deadly Emotions, which explains or shares the research that has been done in a variety of areas about how emotions actually can make you sick, can lead to heart disease, can lead to immune defense illnesses, all kinds of things. So you really want to listen to your body early on before it gets to a physical manifestation. So let's talk about emotions. Emotions, a little more vocabulary than a sensation. Happiness, sadness, anger, fear, disgust, hatred, joy, love, excitement. Okay, you could divide them up into the good feelings and the bad feelings. But the reality is, good feelings can get you in trouble, just like pleasure, by giving you overconfidence when maybe you shouldn't have overconfidence. And the bad feelings sometimes can provide you with the breakthrough to clear out a lot of old stuff that has been holding you back. Mother Nature actually thought emotions was an advancement, an opportunity for us to be able to discern between friend and foe. And so emotions were a way for us to tap into our memory and remember what happened in the past and help us to decide what to do in the present circumstance. But humans are complicated, and sometimes they overreact to a particular situation. For example, recently, I went to Costco with my husband. I had to return something, and he went on to the grocery store to buy things. But when I went into the grocery store after making my return and looked for him, I couldn't find him. You know, big warehouse. Plus, my husband has a special talent, a skin deep invisibility cloak. So he could disappear and I wouldn't be able to find him. Now, eventually I found him, and he was telling me, oh, he had found these great bath towels, these beach towels. And I said, great, I need to go check out the printers. I'll meet you back at the towels. Well, he misheard what I said. So when I came back to the towels, he wasn't there. I looked in the produce, he wasn't there. I looked in the meat section, not there. In the cheese section, in the dry goods section, I couldn't find him anywhere. And I had already looked for him once. I was starting to get pissed off. Finally, I went to the checkout, and there he was, waving on the other side. But wait, I had a return, I had a credit. I was pissed. I was furious. Why? Remember that early childhood betrayal and abandonment? I had this whole story about how people don't wait for me. People don't care about me. I always have to search for everybody else. And so I was in a pissy mood. You would not have wanted to be in the car with me on the way home. Totally out of range of what happened. He did not abandon me. He came home with me. He even helped me put away the groceries. So next time you get triggered by somebody, take a breath, take a pause, and ask yourself, is this over the top? Now, I know it's hard to rein in those emotions once they're triggered. So now, the third mode, mental. This is directly mainlined into our brains by our parents. All the things they tell us, their beliefs, their attitudes, their expectations are programmed directly into our brain when we are very young. And it continues to operate, much of it at a subconscious level. We don't even know it's operating. So if you're going after a life mission or passion and it interferes with some of the things that your parents told you, you're going to get some pushback from this body. It's going to sabotage you. You know, when they talk about self-sabotage, you're not sabotaging you. Your body is sabotaging you, and all that programming is sabotaging you. Things like, this doesn't sound like a safe approach. No, this doesn't sound like a good idea. Why don't you get a regular job? Be an artist? What are you, crazy? You don't have any talent. Music? You think you can sing? You get the picture. We get these messages about what we can and can't do. And when we try to break through that ceiling, that protection, because your parents want to make sure that you're safe. They don't want you to go down the wrong road. And they tell you pretty much what their parents told them. When you try to break through that, it gets in the way. How can you tell if your body is holding you back? How can you tell if it's being a problem? One way is to ask yourself, do I put everybody else ahead of myself? Do I always come last? That's a sign that maybe your body is holding you back. Another sign, some kind of crisis every time you start to work towards your vision or purpose or passion. You get into an argument with your husband or your spouse, or your parents suddenly need you all the time, or your child has a major crisis exactly when you need to be moving on with your project. Your publisher is waiting for your manuscript or whatever it is. So these are signs. Another sign is you're playing the waiting game. You're waiting for more time, more education, more money, the voice of God. If you're playing the waiting game, it might be time for you to take a weight loss program. Which reminds me, I was going to tell you how you could find out more information. And I want to offer specifically to you an opportunity to have a conversation with me. A 15-minute free discovery session to find out how your body is operating in your life and how it might be interfering with your goals and your dreams. So all you need to do is go to meetwithdrmichelle.com and put in the coupon code COMP, C-O-M-P, like complimentary, and then the hashtag or number sign and 1. And then go ahead and schedule a time. And I would be happy to give you at least 15 minutes. It might be longer, so don't schedule something right after that 15 minutes. Give yourself a little bit of space because you might want to think about the things that I share with you. So now we're ready to summarize where we've been. Your body is your buddy. If you want to have a great human adventure, you need to learn to work with it. That means you need to understand its needs, its desires, its fears. And the body is communicating with you all the time in 3 different modes: sensation, emotion, and mentation, or mentally. You might want to start with the mental thoughts that you have going on. And try and not wait until your distress manifests as a physical response. Finally, I want to leave you with the question my mother left me when she was dying. And that is, if you were to die tomorrow, would you die without regrets? And if the answer is no, then it may be time for you to start listening to your body and developing a better relationship.